Asterisk. The destruction of Earth was not a matter of if, but when. For centuries, humanity had built empires, climbed the stars, and even fought among themselves. But nothing had prepared them for the day when an alien alliance, the Zarthar Dominion, struck without warning. The planet, once a shining jewel in the galaxy, was reduced to nothing more than rubble, a tragic casualty in a war that humans hadn't even seen coming. As Earth's skies darkened and the oceans boiled away, the last survivors of the human race boarded ships, fleeing their homeworld with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the stars to guide them. Among them were the best and brightest of humanity, scientists, soldiers, and engineers, who refused to go down without a fight. Among those survivors was Commander Arya McKenna, a decorated fleet officer whose skill in battle and leadership had earned her a reputation across the stars. She stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, the flagship of the ragtag fleet of human survivors, watching Earth burn from the viewport. The blue and green orb that had once been home to billions was now little more than a memory. She had seen it all, the last great battles fought on the planet's surface, the desperate escape from the crumbling cities, and the moment the Earth's final defense systems failed, leaving the planet defenseless. As the fleet made its way toward a distant system, away from the ruins of their world, McKenna knew one thing for certain: Earth was lost, but humanity was not. The question was, where could they go now? They were exiles in the galaxy, a people without a home, and yet, they refused to fade into oblivion. "Commander, we're picking up distress signals from the nearby system," Lieutenant Jackson called out, his voice laced with urgency. "It's a human fleet." McKenna's heart raced. Could it be? Another group of survivors, perhaps? The thought of not being alone was a small comfort in the face of overwhelming despair. "Plot a course," she ordered, her voice calm but filled with an intensity that matched the situation. "We're going to make contact. They may be the key to rebuilding what we've lost." The fleet's engines roared to life as the Phoenix and its sister ships surged forward, heading toward the distant signals of hope. But McKenna knew better than to trust anything too easily. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the Zarthar Dominion wasn't the only threat lurking in the darkness of space. She needed to be ready for anything. As they arrived in the outer reaches of the system, they were greeted not by fellow humans, but by a vast, seemingly abandoned station, its once pristine surface now covered in grime and decay. No ships were docked, and the lights were dim. It was the last place anyone would want to be. "This doesn't feel right," Jackson muttered, scanning the station for any signs of life. "We need answers," McKenna said firmly, rallying her crew. "Prepare to board the station. We'll find out who's out there, and we'll make sure they know humanity isn't dead yet." As the crew suited up and the airlock sealed, McKenna's mind raced. Earth's fall had left the remnants of their once great civilization scattered across the stars, vulnerable to anyone who would take advantage of their desperation. She knew the galaxy was full of factions, empires, and would-be conquerors waiting for an opportunity to crush a weakened human race. But she wasn't about to let that happen. Not on her watch. The airlock opened with a hiss, and the crew stepped out into the shadowy interior of the station. McKenna's boots echoed across the metal floors as they moved cautiously through the abandoned halls, the eerie silence pressing down on them. The station had the look of a once thriving hub, now forgotten in the wake of a tragedy. It was a place where hope had gone to die, and yet, McKenna felt the faintest flicker of possibility. As they reached the central control room, McKenna activated the terminal. The screen flickered to life, revealing a message, one that would change everything. "We are the Exiles. You are not alone." The words were a lifeline, a signal from those who had survived Earth's fall, and they had built something new. The promise of a new beginning, one that McKenna had sworn to lead humanity toward. But she knew the road ahead would be treacherous. Their survival was only the beginning. Now, they had to forge a new empire, one that would not only survive the fall of Earth, but rise again, stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever before. The battle for humanity's future had just begun. The message on the terminal burned into Commander Arya McKenna's mind as her team surveyed the darkened control room. The words, "We are the Exiles. "You are not alone," flickered on the screen, a glimmer of hope in the bleakness of their situation. Whoever had left the message had survived Earth's destruction, and that meant they could rebuild. McKenna turned to Lieutenant Jackson, her trusted second-in-command. "Get this message out to the fleet. We need to know who these exiles are." "Understood, Commander," Jackson said, quickly working on the terminal to send a distress signal to the ships waiting in the outer reaches of the system. The crew waited in tense silence, the weight of their new reality settling in. They were no longer just refugees, they were survivors, the last remnants of humanity scattered across the stars, searching for something to hold on to. And now, a faint beacon of light had appeared in the form of these exiles. "Commander," Lieutenant Zhang, the fleet's chief engineer, interrupted her thoughts. "We found something. It's a shipyard, massive, hidden within the station's lower levels. It's not abandoned." McKenna's heart skipped a beat. A shipyard. Could it be possible? A place where they could rebuild their fleets, where they could start over and make a stand? Her mind raced with the implications of such a discovery. "Gather a team. Let's see what's down there." As McKenna descended into the bowels of the station with a handful of her most trusted officers, the air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. The station seemed ancient, as if it had been forgotten by time itself. Yet, the shipyard was intact, its machinery still functional, despite the station's decayed appearance. The low hum of activity was a comforting sound amid the eerie quiet. "Whoever these exiles are, they've been busy," Zhang said, his voice reverberating through the steel walls. "This place is still operational, and there's enough material here to build an entire fleet." McKenna couldn't help but feel a rush of hope. The Zarthar Dominion had decimated Earth, but now, in the cold vacuum of space, humanity had a chance to fight back. They had a chance to rise again. As they explored the shipyard, McKenna's thoughts turned to the people behind the message. They had to be the key to humanity's future, the foundation upon which they could rebuild. But who were they? How had they survived when Earth itself had fallen? "We're not alone," McKenna muttered to herself. "But I need to know who's out there. I need to know what they want." Her officers exchanged uneasy glances. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the exiles could be anything from allies to ruthless opportunists. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. The team made their way to a docking bay where an old, but well-maintained ship sat. Its hull was a strange blend of human and alien technology, a hybrid of what they knew and what they had been forced to learn from the many cultures they'd encountered in their travels. McKenna stepped aboard the vessel, her boots tapping softly against the metal floors. The ship's cockpit gleamed, its systems humming to life as she activated the command interface. A hologram appeared before her, flickering for a moment before solidifying into the image of a man, older, grizzled, but with a sharp, commanding presence. He wore the insignia of Earth's former fleet, but his uniform was different, marked with patches of battle and survival. "Commander McKenna, I presume?" The hologram's voice was calm but authoritative. "I've been waiting for you." McKenna's heart raced. "Who are you?" The hologram smiled, though it was a grim smile. "We are the Exiles, Commander. The last of humanity's true warriors. The ones who refused to kneel." McKenna's mind raced as she took in the hologram's words. This was the man who had sent the message. But who were these exiles, and what had they been through? "We've spent years building a new home for humanity," the hologram continued. "We've learned, adapted, and grown stronger. But we need more than just survival, Commander. We need a leader, someone who can unite the scattered remnants of humanity and forge a new empire, a force that will never be broken." The weight of his words hit McKenna like a punch to the gut. The responsibility, the weight of rebuilding humanity, it was more than she could have ever imagined. But as she looked at the broken remnants of Earth, she realized there was no choice. The exiles were the last chance humanity had. And she had been chosen to lead them. "We're not alone, Commander. And we're going to make sure the galaxy knows it," the hologram said, his eyes hardening with determination. McKenna straightened, her mind made up. Then let's get to work. The future of humanity was in their hands, and they would not fail. They would rise again, stronger than ever before. The message from the Exiles echoed in Commander McKenna's mind as she stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, gazing at the stars. The weight of the task ahead felt heavier than ever. The survival of humanity wasn't just about rebuilding, it was about uniting the broken fragments of their civilization and forging something new from the ashes of Earth's fall. Her fleet was small, just a handful of ships and survivors, but it was a start. The Exiles had promised they could provide the means to rebuild, but McKenna knew better than to trust anyone blindly. The galaxy was full of factions, each with its own interests, and it was only a matter of time before someone would try to take advantage of humanity's vulnerable state. "We've picked up another message, Commander," Jackson reported, his voice tense. "A human colony ship, broadcasting an emergency signal. It's within our range, but there's no response to our hails." McKenna nodded. It was a risk, but they couldn't afford to ignore any potential allies. "Plot a course, Lieutenant. We'll make contact." As the Phoenix and its fleet maneuvered through the dense asteroid field toward the distress signal, McKenna's mind wandered back to the Exiles. The holographic message from their leader, Captain Elias Core, had been clear: humanity needed a new empire, one that could challenge the galaxy's dominant powers. But how could they hope to build such an empire when they were scattered, vulnerable, and fractured? The colony ship came into view as the fleet emerged from the asteroid belt. It was a massive vessel, its hull marked with the scars of battle. The damage was severe, but not catastrophic, its engines still barely operational. It was a miracle they had made it this far. "Open a communication channel," McKenna ordered. The screen flickered, and the image of a woman appeared, a woman with dark, worried eyes and a streak of gray in her hair. She was standing in what appeared to be a cramped command center. "This is Captain Lydia Ward of the Hope's Respite. We need assistance. We've been stranded in this sector for weeks. We've lost contact with other colonies, and we're running low on supplies." McKenna leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "Captain Ward, this is Commander Aria McKenna of the Phoenix. We've received your distress signal. We're here to help." The relief on Ward's face was almost palpable. You're human? We thought we were the last ones." "We're survivors, just like you," McKenna said. "We're trying to rebuild what was lost. We have a fleet and a secure station. We can offer shelter and resources, but we need your help. Together, we can make a stand." Ward looked at her crew, then back at McKenna. "What do you need us to do?" "We need to unite," McKenna said simply. "We can't rebuild humanity on our own. We need every ship, every person, and every resource we can get our hands on. Join us, Captain, and we'll help you get back on your feet. Together, we can form the foundation of a new empire. One that will never fall again." The silence that followed was heavy. Ward's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but McKenna could see the determination in her gaze. The need for survival was universal among the exiled humans. "We're in," Ward said after a long pause. "We'll follow your lead, Commander." "Good," McKenna replied, feeling a spark of hope for the first time since the fall of Earth. "Let's get you to the station. We've got work to do." As the Hope's Respite limped toward the station, McKenna stood on the bridge, watching the fleet come together. Slowly, but surely, humanity was beginning to unite once again. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, and she could feel the stirring of something greater, a movement that could reshape the future. "Commander, we've got more signals coming in," Jackson reported. "Several more human colonies are broadcasting distress signals, requesting assistance." McKenna's heart raced. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had been scattered to the farthest reaches of space, but now, it seemed as though there were more survivors out there, more fragments of humanity to unite. "We can't ignore them," McKenna said, her voice resolute. "Send out the call to all surviving ships. We're building a new empire, and we need every last one of you." The fleet surged forward, ready to answer the calls of the scattered survivors. McKenna knew they had a long road ahead of them, filled with challenges and dangers. But for the first time since Earth's destruction, she felt a sense of purpose. Humanity would rise again. The Exiles had shown them the way, and now, it was time for McKenna and her fleet to take the next step. The pieces were falling into place. The path to a new empire was beginning to form, and it would be up to them to see it through. The future of humanity was in their hands. And they would not fail. As the Hope's Respite docked at the hidden station, the full scale of what Commander McKenna had set into motion began to take shape. The survivors of Earth, once fractured and isolated, were now beginning to find strength in numbers. The station's walls, though old and scarred from years of neglect, pulsed with the energy of a new beginning. Every ship that arrived brought with it a piece of humanity, each colony, each vessel, contributing their resources and expertise. McKenna stood in the control room, watching as the fleet grew. What had once been a few scattered ships now stretched across the station's docks, a growing armada. Each ship, with its crew and supplies, was a step toward the rebirth of a people. "Commander, we've received communications from multiple colonies," Lieutenant Jackson said, his voice full of urgency. "They're asking when we'll launch our first mission. They're ready to follow your lead." McKenna sighed, her fingers grazing the map of the stars displayed on the control console. "We need to focus. Our priority is to rebuild, but we can't afford to wait forever. The Zarthar Dominion won't stop until they've wiped us out. We need to start sending a message to the galaxy: humanity isn't just surviving anymore. We're building something new." She turned to Captain Lydia Ward, who had joined her on the bridge after the Hope's Respite had docked. "Captain, how long until we're fully operational? Can your crew assist with our preparations?" Ward nodded, her face hardening with resolve. "We've been surviving for years, Commander. We'll be ready within the week. But I think it's time we start making some noise. We can't just sit here and hide in the shadows. The galaxy needs to know we're back." McKenna looked at her, sensing the same urgency she felt. "We're not hiding. But we need to be smart about this. Our first priority is establishing a base of operations, one that can withstand any attack. If we're going to challenge the galaxy, we need a strong foundation." As the days passed, the station transformed. What had once been a decaying relic of a forgotten era now hummed with the energy of renewal. Engineers and builders from every corner of humanity's scattered colonies worked together, repurposing the shipyard's facilities and fortifying the station's defenses. Blueprints for a new fleet began to take shape, the hulls of ships rising from the dry docks as if the station itself had been reborn. But not all was calm in the galaxy. McKenna's thoughts often turned to the Zarthar Dominion, the merciless alien empire that had decimated Earth and now sought to finish the job. She had no illusions about their strength, but humanity had something they didn't: determination. The will to fight. The will to survive. A warning alarm blared, cutting through McKenna's thoughts. She rushed to the communications console, her heart pounding. Jackson's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander, we've got incoming. It's a Zarthar fleet. They've detected our station." McKenna's blood ran cold. It was only a matter of time before they were found. The Zarthar Dominion had likely been watching for any sign of human resistance. Now that they had found it, they wouldn't hesitate to strike. "Ready the fleet. All ships, prepare for combat," McKenna ordered, her voice sharp with authority. "We'll show them that humanity isn't so easily crushed." "Commander, the Exiles are ready," Ward said, stepping up beside her. "We've got fighters and warships at the ready. We'll stand with you." McKenna nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. "Then let's show them what it means to challenge humanity." The Exiles had gathered not just to survive, but to make a stand. And McKenna would lead them into battle, for the survival of Earth's legacy in the future of humanity. As the first Zarthar ships appeared on the station's sensors, McKenna felt the weight of the moment settle upon her. This was it. The moment that would define their future. The moment when humanity would refuse to be broken, no matter how many enemies stood against them. The fleet assembled in a tight formation, their weapons charged and ready. McKenna's eyes swept over her crew, the faces of men and women who had lost everything, but who were now willing to fight for something greater. They were no longer exiles. They were warriors, standing together in the face of a galaxy that had thought humanity was finished. "Battle stations," McKenna commanded. "Let's show the galaxy that humanity's strength isn't measured by the size of our fleet, but by the fire in our hearts." The stars outside the station were suddenly filled with the gleam of enemy ships. The Zarthar had arrived. But they would find that humanity had come a long way from the ashes of Earth. And this time, they would not be so easily defeated. The battle for humanity's future had begun. The Zarthar fleet loomed on the horizon, massive and imposing, like a tidal wave of destruction. Their ships were designed for war, sleek, heavily armed, and brimming with the kind of firepower that had shattered Earth's defenses. But Commander McKenna knew something the Zarthar didn't. Humanity had survived for this long because of its resilience, its ingenuity, and its unwavering determination. The Exiles had proven that. McKenna stood at the helm of the Phoenix, her eyes scanning the tactical readouts. Her fleet was still small, but it had grown more capable by the day. They weren't just survivors anymore, they were fighters. And today, they would prove it. "Commander, the Zarthar are powering up their weapons," Lieutenant Jackson warned, his voice tense. "They're preparing for a full assault." McKenna gripped the edge of the command console, her jaw set. "All ships, prepare to engage. Fire when ready." The first volley of enemy fire streaked toward them like a rain of fire. The Phoenix rocked as energy blasts slammed into its shields, but they held firm. McKenna felt a surge of pride as she watched the damage reports flood in, each one confirming that humanity's defenses were holding against the overwhelming might of the Zarthar. "Return fire," McKenna barked. "Target their flagship first. Take down their command and their morale with it." The fleet responded in kind, unleashing a barrage of their own. The Phoenix's weapons roared to life, sending a steady stream of concentrated energy toward the lead Zarthar ship. The energy blasts connected with devastating accuracy, but the Zarthar ship retaliated with its own weapons, lashing out like a predator striking its prey. "Shields at 70%. Lieutenant Zhang shouted from the engineering station. "Maintain fire," McKenna commanded. "We can't let up now." The Zarthar flagship was a massive warship, far larger than anything the humans had at their disposal. Its shields absorbed the majority of the fire, but McKenna could see its hull beginning to scorch under the barrage. Slowly but surely, they were wearing it down. "This is going to be a long fight," Captain Ward said, her voice grim but resolute. "We're outgunned, Commander, but we've got something they don't: strategy and grit." McKenna nodded. "Exactly. They may have the numbers, but they don't know how to adapt like we do." As the battle raged on, McKenna's mind raced. They needed more than just brute force to win this fight. They needed a strategy that would exploit the weaknesses of the Zarthar fleet, something that would force them into a vulnerable position. "Lieutenant Jackson, patch me into the fleet's comms," McKenna ordered. Moments later, the voices of her commanders filled the bridge, each one awaiting her command. "Listen up, everyone. We need to use our agility. We can't match the Zarthar head-to-head, but we can outmaneuver them. I want all ships to break formation and strike at their weaker flanks. Keep them off balance. We'll hit them with everything we've got until their defenses crack." A chorus of affirmations rang out, and McKenna could feel the tide beginning to shift. The human fleet scattered, weaving through the chaos of enemy fire, using the station as cover while striking at vulnerable points on the Zarthar ships. The Zarthar commanders, who had expected the humans to cower, now found themselves in a battle they hadn't anticipated. Humanity's strategy was working. The Zarthar warships were floundering, caught off guard by the smaller, more agile human ships that refused to stand still for a moment. But it wasn't just the fleet that was turning the tide. McKenna's mind raced as she watched the battlefield unfold. The Exiles had promised her more than just fighters. They had advanced technology, hybridized with alien designs. The Phoenix's advanced stealth systems activated, allowing it to slip past enemy ships unnoticed. "We've got an opening," Zhang said, his voice filled with excitement. "If we take down their communications array, we can blind their fleet. They'll be in disarray." McKenna's heart pounded. This was the break they needed. She issued the order without hesitation. "Target the Zarthar flagship's communications array. All ships, focus fire." The Phoenix broke from the formation, using its advanced systems to slip undetected into the heart of the Zarthar fleet. With a precise shot, they hit their target. The communications array exploded in a brilliant flash, sending a shockwave through the Zarthar fleet. Suddenly, their ships were disoriented, unable to communicate with each other. "Direct hit, Commander," Jackson reported. "They're blind. We've got them now." The human fleet surged forward, pouring everything they had into the disorganized Zarthar warships. Without their communications network, the Zarthar ships faltered. The humans were no longer the underdogs, they were predators. The battle raged for hours, but McKenna could feel the momentum shifting in their favor. With each Zarthar ship that fell, humanity's victory grew closer. The Zarthar, unable to recover their strategic command, were overwhelmed. Finally, the flagship, their command center, took a direct hit to its engines, and the colossal warship erupted into a fiery explosion. "Victory!" Ward shouted, her voice ringing out with a triumphant joy McKenna hadn't expected to hear in this brutal fight. McKenna stood still for a moment, absorbing the gravity of what they had just accomplished. The Zarthar fleet had been decimated, but this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven its strength today, not just as survivors, but as warriors capable of facing down the galaxy's most formidable threats. The victory wasn't just in the ships they destroyed or the fleet they defeated, it was in the message they had sent. The Exiles had forged a new future, one where humanity could rise again. And McKenna had led them into battle. As the remaining Zarthar ships fled into the void, McKenna stood tall, knowing one thing for sure: the galaxy would never forget the day humanity rose from the ashes and refused to be broken. The war was far from over, but today, humanity had made its mark. The aftermath of the battle was nothing short of extraordinary. The Zarthar fleet had been shattered, their flagship destroyed, their commanders scattered. Humanity had won a monumental victory, one that would resonate across the stars. But as Commander McKenna stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, staring out at the wreckage of the defeated alien fleet, she knew the real challenge was just beginning. "We've done it," Captain Ward said, her voice filled with awe as she surveyed the tactical readouts. "The Zarthar won't forget this. And neither will the rest of the galaxy." McKenna didn't reply immediately. The thrill of victory was fading, replaced by the cold realization that the Zarthar were not the only threat out there. They had only just begun to scratch the surface of what it meant to rebuild humanity's empire. The galaxy was vast, and it was filled with dangers, some known, and others still hidden in the shadows. "Commander," Jackson said, breaking her thoughts. "We've received a transmission from the Exiles. They're ready to send reinforcements." McKenna nodded, grateful for their support. "Send them the coordinates. We'll need all the help we can get." The reinforcements were more than just additional ships. They were the backbone of the new empire: engineers, scientists, diplomats, and warriors from every corner of the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore, they were fighting to reclaim their place in the stars. As the Exile ships arrived, McKenna felt a surge of optimism. The Phoenix was no longer just a ship. It was the symbol of humanity's resurgence, a beacon for all those who had been scattered across the galaxy, waiting for the moment when they could rise again. "Commander," Ward said, her tone now serious, "we've been monitoring Zarthar communications. They're regrouping. They're not finished with us yet." McKenna turned toward her. "Then we'll be ready. We've sent a message, but now we need to make sure they understand it. Humanity is no longer the prey. We're the predators." Jackson looked up from his console, his face grim. "There's more, Commander. We've intercepted messages from other galactic powers. The word is getting out. Some of them are curious about what happened here. Others, they're suspicious. They're wondering if we're a threat. McKenna's stomach tightened. And which ones think we're a threat? All of them, Jackson replied, his fingers flying across the console. The Vothar Expanse, the Cyric Confederacy, even the Exiles combine. They've been watching the Zarthar Dominion for years, and now they're looking at us. They want to know what our intentions are. McKenna considered the implications. The galaxy had been ruled by powerful factions for centuries, each vying for dominance. Humanity had always been a footnote in their histories, a weak, vulnerable species clinging to survival. But now, that was changing. We'll need to make our intentions clear, McKenna said firmly. We're not here to dominate, we're here to survive. But we will protect what's ours, and we will not bow to anyone. Ward gave a sharp nod. We'll need allies. If we're going to build something new, we can't do it alone. McKenna's eyes narrowed. We won't just ask for allies. We'll offer them a choice, join us, or watch as we rise without them. The idea of forging alliances wasn't just about diplomacy, it was about power. Humanity had the potential to become a force the galaxy couldn't ignore. The Exiles had shown them the way forward, and McKenna was determined to make sure they didn't squander that opportunity. Prepare the message, McKenna ordered. We'll send it to every faction within range. Tell them this: humanity is back. And we are here to stay. The next few days were a blur of activity. The station became a bustling hub of communication, as ambassadors, military leaders, and diplomats from various factions began to respond to McKenna's call. Some were curious, intrigued by humanity's sudden rise. Others were more cautious, unwilling to risk offending the Zarthar or other galactic powers by aligning with a species they still considered insignificant. But McKenna wasn't looking for instant allies. She understood that trust had to be earned. The Zarthar defeat, while monumental, was just the first step in proving humanity's worth. She wasn't just asking for alliances, she was demanding respect. We've received word from the Cyric Confederacy, Jackson said, breaking the silence on the bridge. They want to meet with us. They're offering a formal negotiation. McKenna's heart skipped a beat. The Cyric Confederacy was one of the most powerful factions in the galaxy, known for their ruthlessness in trade and warfare. For them to seek an audience with humanity was a sign of potential. But McKenna wasn't about to assume anything. Prepare the meeting. But remind them that we're not here to beg for scraps. We have something to offer, and we'll negotiate on our terms. As the Cyric envoy's ship arrived in the station's docking bay, McKenna stood at the ready, flanked by her top officers. The moment of truth was here. A tall, reptilian figure emerged from the ship, flanked by two armed guards. Its eyes gleamed with intelligence, and, perhaps, a hint of calculation. The Cyric were known for their keen minds and their ability to exploit weaknesses. McKenna knew this negotiation wouldn't be easy. But she was ready. Humanity was no longer the prey. It was time to show the galaxy that the old order had been shattered. A new empire was rising, and humanity would not be denied its place in the stars. Welcome to our station, McKenna said, her voice calm but firm. I'm Commander Arya McKenna, and this is humanity's new beginning. The Cyric envoy studied her for a moment, then nodded. We've heard much about you, Commander. And I think we can help each other. For the first time in her life, McKenna felt the weight of her people's future on her shoulders, but it wasn't a burden. It was a promise. Humanity had not just survived. They had begun to conquer their place in the galaxy. And they would not stop until they had built the empire they had always deserved. The Cyric Confederacy's envoy had arrived, and Commander McKenna knew this moment would define the next chapter of humanity's rise from the ashes of Earth. The Cyric were not just another galactic faction, they were powerful, strategic, and ruthless, known for their vast trade networks, militaristic tendencies, and intricate political games. Yet, as McKenna observed the envoy's reptilian eyes scanning her every move, she felt a surge of confidence. Humanity was no longer the weak species that cowered beneath the boots of invaders. They had proven themselves on the battlefield, defeating the Zarthar Dominion and sending a clear message across the stars: humanity was back, and humanity was strong. The Cyric ambassador, a tall and sharp-featured being named Varric, inclined his head slightly. His piercing yellow eyes were calculating, betraying little emotion. He didn't smile as he spoke. "Commander McKenna, your people's recent victory over the Zarthar is impressive. We've not seen such resolve in the galaxy for centuries. But let us be clear, power is not simply won on the battlefield. It is forged in more subtle ways." McKenna met his gaze steadily. "And what is it that the Cyric want from humanity, Ambassador Varric?" The envoy tilted his head, as if testing the weight of her words. "We seek something that your people have in abundance: resources. Technology. The Zarthar were formidable, yes, but they controlled vital trade routes and rich worlds. With their defeat, new opportunities have opened. The Cyric Confederacy can offer your people knowledge, trade access, and military alliances in exchange for those resources." McKenna considered this. The Cyric's offer was both a blessing and a trap. In exchange for their help, humanity could access the Galactic trade network, acquire more advanced technology, and gain powerful military backing. But at what cost? Humanity had learned the hard way that trusting powerful factions came with strings attached. "Resources?" McKenna echoed. "You want us to give you what's rightfully ours? After everything we fought for?" Varric's expression remained impassive, but McKenna caught the faintest glint of amusement in his eyes. "We are offering a partnership, Commander. A mutually beneficial agreement. You cannot build your empire alone. You will need the resources and infrastructure that we control. Your fleets are strong, yes, but you are still scattered, vulnerable. The galaxy will not let you rise without paying the price." McKenna's mind raced. The Cyric were ruthless, but they were also shrewd negotiators. It would be foolish to dismiss them outright, but at the same time, humanity's future had to be free from the shackles of alien influence. They had already endured too much, and now, they had something to offer, something unique. "We will not be anyone's puppet," McKenna said, her voice steely. "Humanity will not bow to anyone again. But we are willing to negotiate. We understand the value of resources and trade. We are open to forming alliances that benefit both of our peoples. But we will not be coerced." Varric studied her for a long moment, the silence in the room thick with tension. Then, with a calculated nod, he spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of a concession. "Perhaps there is room for compromise, Commander. Humanity's ingenuity cannot be ignored. I see potential in your people, a force that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. Let us begin anew, on equal terms. Your people's resources, your technology, and your military strength, combined with the reach and knowledge of the Cyric Confederacy." McKenna's heart quickened. This was more than she had hoped for. The Cyric were offering to share their knowledge and infrastructure, not just take from humanity. It was an opening, a chance to forge a powerful alliance without losing humanity's autonomy. "We accept your offer, Ambassador," McKenna said, her voice firm with resolve. "But understand this, we are not subjugated. This is an alliance of equals. Humanity will rise on our own terms." Varric nodded, his sharp eyes gleaming. "Agreed. Let this be the first of many meetings between our peoples." As the Cyric envoy departed, McKenna watched them leave with a quiet sense of triumph. The meeting had been a test, one that humanity had passed. They were no longer a fractured group of exiles, waiting to be preyed upon. They were players on the galactic stage, and now, the galaxy would have to reckon with them. The days that followed were filled with diplomacy, but also with preparation. Humanity's fleet, bolstered by the Cyric's technology and support, began to take shape as a true military force. The Phoenix now boasted advanced weaponry and defenses, while the newly formed human fleets integrated Cyric technology and tactics into their own systems. McKenna knew this was just the beginning. The Sirak were the first of many factions to recognize humanity's potential, but others would follow. Some would offer cooperation, others would test humanity's resolve. The war with the Zarthar was over, but the galaxy was still a vast and dangerous place. Humanity had shown it could stand tall against the fiercest of foes, but now, they needed to secure their place in the stars. "Commander," Ward said, entering the bridge, "our fleets are ready for the next phase. We've received word from the Vothar Expanse. They're sending a delegation." McKenna nodded, her mind already racing ahead. "Let them come. We will show them what humanity is capable of." She turned to face the stars, feeling the weight of their future. The Exiles had found a home among the stars, and now, they would forge a legacy. Earth might be lost, but humanity was far from defeated. They had fought for their survival, and now, they would fight for their place in the galaxy. As the Phoenix drifted toward the horizon of a new dawn, McKenna stood tall. Humanity had returned to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. The rise of humanity had only just begun.